Do you want me to start? All right. Since the recording's in progress, I'll just talk about quickly what I was talking about before. This iPhone talk tonight includes anything, Androids, iPhones. I'm using iPhone as a generic name for anything you can put in your pocket. Of course, the most important thing is keeping yourself mobile when you're carrying a camera bag, when you're that on trains, like especially in Europe, Italy, or wherever. It's too much to carry. It makes you a real target for thieves, and you just want something you can put in your pocket and keep keep mobile. And of course, today the quality of the phones allows a quicker response to unexpected photo opportunities, which come up quite often when you're traveling, things that you would not expect. And if you're using a camera with unless it's a really good zoom, you've got the wrong lens on for the wrong opportunities, it really can ruin some good opportunities. And also, the cell phone allows you to edit on the phone. You can share your adventures without having to wait to process it on a computer. And of course, when you're traveling abroad, carrying a computer bag, your camera bag, your travel bag all at once is really a daunting experience. Okay. Now, are there any weaknesses to traveling with just an iPhone? Of course, if the trip is for bird photography, like when your group went to Wheeler, was it this January? You're not going to be able to do that with the iPhone. You need to bring your camera, but for landscapes, nighttime images, general travel photography, the phone is great. Uh, and basically anything, the iPhone's pretty good, even have some decent telephoto. My iPhone, I can do times eight, even though it's really times four optical, and then two times more digital. But I've taken many photographs with that fairly clear, and clear enough that you can clean that up with Topaz or one of the other softwares. So generally, unless you're going to need to take images of more than 300 millimeters, your iPhone's just fine. Okay. So what I've got coming up is a potpourri of my travel images taken with the phone. Um, some trips I've taken to Italy and to Israel, and to then some and sundry pictures from Florida and near the Marietta area, just with the phone. Okay, coming into Italy, that was one of the things my wife and I had watched these videos, Steves, and then Gregor Brown, and all they talked about was travel lightly. You don't want to be carrying things over cobblestone streets. You don't want to make yourself a target for thieves. So that really ingrained on me, wait a minute, maybe I better not take my camera bag with me because that would have been one too many things. And luckily, I didn't have my camera bag because unfortunately, my wife in Florence broke her leg. And so I had to use one hand all the time to carry her, but I still had my other hand for photographing with my iPhone. So it worked out very well. Okay. This is flowing to Rome. This is an iPhone image from the top of our hotel balcony, showing the city of Rome below. And it was nice just to be able to have the iPhone to take that. The Colosseum, people think they need a big wide-angle lens or camera to you can get great pictures of the Colosseum with your iPhone. You're not losing anything by having the iPhone and not a camera. And this day, it was even though we went early in June, we had a heat wave. It was close to 100 degrees, and carrying along a camera bag and all the other stuff would have been awful at that kind of weather. So it was nice just to have the iPhone. One of the indoors, Borghese Gallery. I don't know if any of you guys have been to the Borghese Gallery. It's beautiful in Rome. But with the iPhone, I was able to not worry about carrying along heavy camera equipment. Didn't have to worry about the museum not allowing professional equipment into the museum, so that they may have confiscated or maybe put my camera equipment into a bag and missed all these opportunities. And you're not allowed to use flash. But here's one of the Bernini statues. This is the Rape of Proserpina. And it was amazing, even with the iPhone, you can get the detail, see his hand. You can see the indentations in the flesh, which is amazing when you think about that with marble. It was something I was able to capture with the iPhone. I didn't feel like I was losing anything by having to lug a heavy camera around. I've got a few of those other images. This is the statue of Apollo and Daphne. And same again, iPhone. I didn't feel like I was losing anything by carrying, not carrying a large camera around. And of course, this is Bernini's statue of David. You can see the look on his face, his rock about to slay Goliath, and of course with the iPhone. Uh, Even things like the Tripoli Trevi Fountain didn't need to worry about having a large camera around. Even though we were lucky and we went very early in the morning, if you had large crowds, it's easier to take with an iPhone than if you have a camera, you're going to get bumped and you're going to get a lot of blurred pictures, I'm afraid, because if many of you have probably been there, you know what I'm talking about. Just having a smaller phone that you can put close to you and protect yourself or protect the imaging device, the camera or the cell phone, it certainly helps. You can even do great indoor shots. Here's this roof of the Hall of Maps in the Vatican City. Um, no problem with the iPhone because the iPhone you can go from wide angle to telephoto. I was able to frame the image with the iPhone. Didn't have to worry about tripods. In fact, you weren't allowed to take tripods in there. And also very, very helpful to be able to have something you can just carry in your pocket. And this is the stairway of the in the Vatican Museum. It's front to back. It's nice and sharp. Um, you don't have to worry about that. I think it's like a 2.8 lens in the iPhone, so a good depth of field from front to back. There are some apps you can do to also blur and change your perspective, depth of field. But on most shots like this, you're going to be able to get good quality from front to back, which is very important. And iPhone and Android phones also provide that ability. And this is a picture from inside the Vatican Museum. This is St. Peter's Cathedral, the dome of the St. Peter's Cathedral. Couldn't done any better with my Nikon, I don't think. Nice and sharp. The sensors on these things now have a great um, latitude and exposures. It you don't even need to do HDR like you used to have to do with the camera. For some reason the quality of these phones now pretty takes care of a lot of the depth of field issues. And by the way, if anybody has any questions during this thing, feel free to break in. I have no problem with that at all. Okay, this is the Oculus at the Pantheon. Was able to take. Didn't put it in the slideshow, but was able to take panoramas of the entire room of the Pantheon, which I would have needed a tripod to do that with a camera. With the cell phone, as you know, it's got that little leveling device. You just carry it and go around in the circle, and was able to get the 360 panoramas of the Pantheon, which would have been impossible with the camera without a tripod. Go away the Statue of David, crowded, being bumped, but with the iPhone was able to get a picture sharp, and with the camera may not have had that ability. One of the things I said you need, for birds, iPhone's not great unless the bird happens to fly within about 2 feet of you, and there's a window between you and the bird, and you can still get shots. This was taken with probably at 8 times exposure. This was on the iPhone 16, or the 4 times exposure, I'm sorry. And as you can see, great quality. The eye sharp on the seagull. A nice view of the city behind it. This is one of the things too, if I had my camera in the camera bag, had just gotten on the train, I know the camera bag would have been under the seat or something like that. And here comes this, the train. This is the high-speed train, similar to the train we took from Rome to Florence, but I was able to grab that with the iPhone for a nice establishing shot of where we were. And I don't think I would have gotten that shot if I had had my camera with me because it would have been in the camera bag because lugging all the stuff from the platform onto the car, it took all the energy that we had. iPhone allowed me to take nice pictures. This is from Rome to Florence. We obviously going through Trivoli, and here's a Tuscany. I'm sorry, and here's a picture just out of the window. One thing good about the iPhone, you can put it right up against the glass to help reduce any reflections. And those that use, those of you that saw me in my talk about how to photograph at the aquarium, same kind of thing. Able to get rid of the reflections by going right up against it. Sometimes you can even just take a black cloth and put the iPhone up against the window with the black cloth, and you get these nice clear photos. That might have been a little bit more difficult to do with the my camera, and I probably would have been afraid to, because I'd have had to take the lens hood off. Otherwise, I would have gotten light leakage around the hood against the window. So that's another advantage with the iPhone. So at
Oh,
this
Marvin,
point,
Marvin,
yes,
excuse me. We got one question here. Were you always saving as JPEG slash HEIF, or did you use
I
RAW
was,
at any time?
I'm always using RAW. I'm always using RAW, and it's no problem. Using RAW is it's 48 megapixels, so you've got a lot of room to crop. Um, and RAW is the way I tend to do. Um, does that answer the question? Okay. Yep. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now this is the Porta Vecchio, and this is now we're in Florence, and this is an iPhone image. We had just had dinner, uh, walking across the bridge, and I probably wouldn't have taken my camera to dinner. I probably would have kept it safely in the hotel room if I'd had it, but no need to worry about that because I was able to just pull the iPhone out of my pocket. This is, I think we had just had a gelato, I think, and my wife may have been sitting in the along the street right over here eating the gelato, and I said, I need to get a picture of this, bridge, and with the reflection, it was just gorgeous. And I don't think I lost any quality by using the phone versus having the camera with me. Okay, this is the Duomo in Italy, and again, we had been shopping for clocks. I think we ended up buying about 10, a lot of clocks for gifts for people that were made in Italy. And I probably wouldn't have taken my large camera to do the shopping thing, but having it in my pocket, I was able to do these shots of around Italy. If from This is a long story here. We went from Florence. We're going to St. Pisa to take a train to down to Cinque Terre, and I'm so glad I didn't have my camera bag with me. The train was supposed to go directly from Florence to St. Pisa, and you take a train from Pisa down St. Pisa down to Cinque Terre. But nobody told us that there's a repair on the track between Pisa and the train station where we need to go. It was about 2 or 3 hours bus ride away, and the train just stopped. And we had to at this point, my wife had to. We didn't know her leg was broken, but it was really sore. So we were hobbling along the train tracks and stuff like that, trying to figure out where to go because the train just stopped. We finally found customer service that told us we had to take a bus and pointed to where the bus stop was right in front of the train station. Well, we went and looked at all the buses, and none of the buses have the right signage on it. And so I'm walking around in circles, and finally I found another customer service person that says the bus to St. Pisia is not here yet. Um, when it comes, I'll let you know, and I'll get you on the bus. So he got us on the bus. But if we had carried that extra camera bag, because I don't know about you guys, but my camera bag weighs 42 pounds when I've got my long lens in there, my wide angle lens, my normal lens. And so carrying that extra 42 pounds around would have been very, very, very difficult. But this is from our hotel balcony in Monte Rosa, uh, and it's just north of the Amalfi Coast. It's a little more quaint. There weren't the huge cruise ships coming in. It was, and it didn't have all the fancy stuff, but it was nice and quaint. Great restaurants. We ate there, and also we took a five. The Cinque Terre means obviously five towns. So we were able to take a sunset cruise. Oh, this is from the balcony again of our hotel. Great front to back sharpness. As you can see, the color renditions are terrific. Then we took this boat ride. It was called a sunset tour for the five towns. And I don't think we would have made it, me having to carry the camera equipment and help with my wife and her broken leg, which you never know is going to happen, but things happen. It's good not to be so weighted down. And so I really didn't feel like I lost anything with my having my phone. This is the five towns. There's Vernaza, um, and this Cornigula. And as you can see, that's the only town of the five towns that's not right on the water. That's up on the hill. This is Riomaggiore, and then Manarola. And this, with my iPhone, I wouldn't have been able to deal with this with my camera, but I was able to because the boat was rocking, and the boat captain was the moon was going all over the place, and then finally he moved in such a spot. The shot I was really hoping for was the sun setting just above the point of this mountain here, and I was able to grab that very quickly with my phone and not having to worry about the settings. Even if I had an automatic, this would have been kind of a difficult shot because of the lighting, the sun being a little bit brighter than the shadowed side of the mountain. But as you can see, the phone, because of its computer algorithms, really was able to help with the HDR aspect of this shot. And I think it came out with something very pleasing. And I don't think that would have happened if I had had my camera. Then we went to Israel. And Israel's another thing. We were on and off buses. It was a tour thing. Kind of wore us out, but I'm glad I didn't have to carry the camera bag around. This is from the En-Gedi's area of Israel. And I didn't see any loss of quality because I'm using my phone. And it's kind of tough when you're traveling to these exotic places. You know you may never go back again to leave the equipment that you love at home. But and it took a little guts not to take my equipment, just to take my phone. But I'm so glad that I was able to do that. And I hope if this presentation does anything else, it may help you save your back or your shoulders from carrying equipment around, and that you can get by and really come home with some really nice stuff just from your phone. Okay. This was taken from a bus, moving bus on past the Dead Sea going to Jerusalem. And I call this my Mount Sinai image because the sun was just setting. I wasn't expecting anything because, as you know, as you're driving through the desert, everything's just kind of boring. It's all the same color. And all of a sudden, the setting sun um, with the corpuscular rays coming up just made this like almost holy like image. So I was able to grab my phone out of my pocket and zip, like in 10 seconds. Would not have been able to do that, I don't think, with my phone. I just don't think it would have happened with a regular camera. But I'm so glad I had my phone with me. This is also a nature preserve. Uh, those ibex were maybe 30 or 40 feet in the air, and this is kind of reaching the limits of the telephoto aspects of the camera. But I was very happy with the end results. In fact, I was able to get the two ibex, the main ibex sitting here, and another ibex down here in the corner. Um, and that was a probably about a quarter of a mile hike through this nature preserve to see this spot. Glad I had my cell phone with me. This is another iPhone image. This one I was able to do a pano. Didn't have my tripod, but in the cell phone it's very. This is the port of Haifa here. This is the Baha'i temple in Haifa, and I really wanted to get a nice image between these two trees. I may have been able to get this if I had taken my camera with the wide angle lens, but here I was able to do. the pano aspect of the camera or the cell phone and take the entire scene that I wanted. And that was another thing that, pano it's just pressing one button, it automatically goes to pano mode. Whereas if you're trying to do a pano with your camera, you know how much more difficult that is to do. Here's another pano on the, this is taken from a moving bus pano. Actually, this is with my cell phone. Luckily, the bus was going slow enough and I could keep it level enough. But as we're going from one place to another, I happened to see this aqueduct and I asked the bus, our tour guide about it. And that was a Roman aqueduct in Israel that we're able to see from the road as we're driving from place to place. Thought historically that was a pretty cool picture to take. Here's another one close up with the iPhone. As you know, if you've traveled in Europe, cats are like sacrosanct because they help keep the rat population down, the rodents, and they're very well revered in Europe. And this cat was following me all around. Here I was walking from our kibbutz to the Sea of Galilee, and this cat just kept following me, and I just turned around with my iPhone and click, there he was. I couldn't done any better if I'd had a telephoto lens on this one, or so that was always really good to have. Okay, here's the Sea of Galilee, um, and kind of has a lot of religious and historical significance. So I really just wanted to get a picture. This is sunrise at the Sea of Galilee, and with the iPhone, not the image is not blown out. Um, I could probably open up the shadows a little bit more on those trees, but again, the iPhone really did not limit my abilities to take images. This is on top of the Golan Heights. Tour guide was telling us about the different regions here. We're looking at Israel looking down on Jordan or Syria, and as you can see, it's greenery up to a certain point, and back here is the other land that's just barren. Uh, but this is another image showing, had my phone here, we're taking a bumpy Jeep ride to get up here. I mean, when I talk about bumpy, I mean, if it's like being in a chiropractor saying boom, boom, boom. Um, and I don't know what would happen with the carrying a camera like that, but having the phone in my pocket when we got there, pulled it out, was able to take some images. Here's another image. This is this gate. This area here is Israel, and this is Lebanon. Um, again, the good depth of field from front to back for landscapes is terrific. And I left a little bit of the sun rays at the very top, but as you can see, the it wasn't nothing was blown out because the sun was so close to the edge of the frame. So the cell phones are very good about taking care of high contrast situations. This is just as walking through this is walking through Tel Aviv. They have a lot of wall art there. It seems like it's not graffiti. They encourage this kind of thing. And so this was all over the place. So it's just a snapshot of some of the wall art, which was able to do in carrying equipment around as hot as it was. I'm glad just had my cell phone to take the image. Of course, with historical scenes, here's the Western Wall. Um, they wouldn't allow regular cameras anyway into to there because they only but they didn't say anything about cell phones. So I was able to grab this image, which again has a lot of historical significance, and something I probably would have not gotten if I had had a regular camera and just had the camera, not the cell phone. Now, this is there's the, uh, the tunnels under the Western Wall, and this is our guide. We're talking about this is what supports the structure above the temple above, and it was laid over 2,000 years ago. It's just something amazing. And again, I wouldn't have if I didn't have the cell phone, I wasn't able to get this picture, and I didn't lose anything by leaving my my camera in the States. So I really don't feel I missed anything like that. Okay. And this is going up to Masada, cable car going up to Masada. And I think it was 100 degrees and the hottest probably I've ever been on top of the mountain there. And just having a nice little cell phone versus camera was certainly a relief. Um, but it was able to get to the top of the mountain and view around and didn't lose anything by not having a camera. This is taken from the top of Masada. This is the Dead Sea, and it's much dried up. It used to be the Dead Sea used to come up to the base of Masada, but now it's about a third of the size it used to be. I guess a lot of the lakes in the world are having that same issue. But I felt, here's I guess the West Bank, there's Jordan, there's the Dead Sea, this is Israel. You got two countries, a big lake with the cell phone, no issues. So it was great having that. One thing you can't do with the camera, we went to a winery and I like this image because you could do a self-portrait and put it on Facebook the day we were there in Israel. And I mentioned that, I was at the winery and I got tanked. So that's something you couldn't do if you had your camera. And it's really fun to be able to share things, you know, right away because your friends are home and they know you've been to a different country and they want to see what you're doing. So it's nice to not have to go back to the hotel room, take a computer, put your SIM card in there and before you can download it. This is another grab shot. This is a grab shot from one of the streets in Jerusalem. I think if I was walking with my camera, I would have been a little bit self-conscious about taking this image. But having a cell phone, nobody pays attention because everybody's always holding a cell phone talking with it. And I just kind of pretend like I was talking on the cell phone and took that image. And I love this. Um, I did ask someone afterwards what these umbrellas were for. And in the Mediterranean countries that have such a high, the sun's so high in the sky, um, there's a company in Spain that makes these umbrellas for streets, and it provides shade during the hot summer days against the for people walking on the sidewalks between the stores. So that kind of was interesting too, as an aside. Here's another image. This is an image. This is a Palestinian fellow who ran a school for Palestinians and the Jews, and they learned each other's languages, very harmonious, and it was fun hearing about that. But with the cell phone, I felt I was able just to go ahead and take that image without being too conspicuous. Now, this image here, I have to tell you this story. A friend of mine has a condo down in Sarasota, Florida. I go to about once, maybe twice a year. And our plane, we usually like to take sunsets and sunrises. I like the sunsets anyway. My friend is not an early bird, so he doesn't get many of the sunrises. But our plane was late by about a half an hour. And if anybody's been to Sarasota Airport, it's not that big an airport. We got off the plane and I looked out the window and I could see. And I said to my friend, I think the sunset's going to be really nice. It was about 30 minutes from actual sunset. So we ran down the concourse, ran to baggage claim. I got the rental car. He got my bag. And at that point, we had about 15 minutes left to sunset. So we got in the car and drove, and there was no view of the ocean until we got to this point. The sun had already set. But as most of you know, the most colorful part of the sunset is usually 10 to 15, sometimes even 20 minutes after the sunset. That's when colors start to pop. We pulled up to a parking lot, ran to the spot, and the colors were in about 1 minute of fading. If I had had to pull my camera out of the bag and set it up, I would have lost this image. I took this with my cell phone, and my favorite shot of the day, of the whole trip, in fact, and it was saved because I used the cell phone, and I wasn't afraid to use that versus using a camera. I mean, I did take my main camera on this trip because a lot of birding in the trip, But it's another example of why carrying the cell phone and using that and not being afraid to use that versus a regular your expensive camera is not is not something to be ashamed of. In fact, it really helps in a lot of situations. Here's another one that I took this one just last week. This is Sunset, Sarasota Bay, a similar location to where I took this the other sunset. And again, you see the colors. And I didn't exaggerate these colors. I didn't pump up the. In fact, I had to downplay the saturation because it looked unreal um, in person, and I didn't want it to look so unreal in photograph too. But this is again a pano that I took with my iPhone. A pano would have been hard to do. It could have been done with the camera, but it's a lot quicker and easier. You can take great macro shots. This was at Selby Garden in Sarasota. And for those that don't know, using the cell phone to take a macro shot is fairly easy. You just take, let's see if I can do this. I usually, the bottom part where your lens is, I put that up against the floor and use that as the base. And there is a macro function that automatically kicks in on the phones when you get close. But I was able to, on the phone, they have the AI stuff. I was able to find out that this is a Sri Lanka weevil, which is an invasive and very dangerous because it's eating a lot of the plants. Um, and I would have not known that until if I'd used my camera, because I would have, take it, get into the computer, try to find an AI to tell me what kind of bug it was. So then I was able to go to the administrator of the gardens and said, "Did you know you have a Sri Lanka weevil?" He goes, "No, they're invasive. They're terrible." So I showed him where I found it, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I'd had my regular camera. So very important things can happen with the cell phone that you can't use with your camera. There's another just showing a macro shot. This is in the gardens. Um, nice sharp image. Even though it was a contrasty day because of bright sun, the iPhone handled it well, and not having my camera, no big deal. I left that in the condo, uh, knowing I was just going to be doing this, and I wasn't really going to be doing any bird photography here. Okay. My bedroom in the condo, kind of faced east, so I looked out and I saw the sun coming up, and there was a maybe 10 or 15 degrees of clear blue sky, and I knew it was kind of raining to the west. So I grabbed my cell phone and ran to the balcony that overlooks the bay. And sure enough, there was the rainbow, uh, starting from here all the way up. So just beautiful little scene and nice lighting. You can see the Van Wezel auditorium in the lower right. They call that the Purple Cow. And the nice lighting. You can see further to the far and right near the edge of the water and where those buildings are, the rain's coming down there, and I guess enough rain closer to me to create that rainbow. I don't think that rainbow only lasted about a minute, and I think I wouldn't have been able to get that if I was fooling around with my camera to try to change the lenses. Easy enough to get the proper millimeters by your phone by just hitting the one, two, three, or four button. Whereas the camera, who knows, probably would have had my telephoto lens on it because I was planning to go birding that the next hour or so. So it was good to have the flexibility of the cell phone. Okay. Here's another cell phone image. This was not with a tripod. One good thing's the iPhone and the phones take excellent nighttime photography. This is handheld. Can you imagine what a handheld shot would have looked like using your camera with, let's say, a 25 to 70 millimeter lens, unless you're using a really high ISO. Um, but with the raw image and the 50 megapixel image from the 48 megapixel image from the phone, nice sharp image from side to side. Colors are not blown out, even though the red, white, and blue, this white posts here could easily have been blown out. and except for the fact that the cell phone really does have a great range. I know you guys went to Wheeler in January. I think y'all mentioned that when I was judging the photo contest a couple weeks ago. I'm taking pictures with my long lens on my D500 and the 160 to 600 millimeter lens with the sandhill cranes taking off. But all of a sudden, this murmuration of blackbirds kind of arose, like coming right at me, and I'm going, well, I'm not going to be able to get anything with this phone. So I mean, with the camera, with the long lens, so I put that down, grabbed my cell phone, and took this image. And look at it. 100 birds in this image, all tack sharp. And that wouldn't have happened with my phone. With my camera, my long lens, I would have had maybe 5 or 10 birds probably blown out. Depth of field would have been a real terrible issue. Um, so even at Wheeler, sometimes having the phone really helps. Of course, I wouldn't advise leaving your camera at home like you would if you went on an Italy trip to go to Wheeler or someplace like that. But remember, you've got a great imaging device in your pocket that if you need it, use it because it can truly save. And this turns out to be my second favorite picture of the trip. My favorite picture was able actually catching the whooping crane. This I took with, believe it or not, my iPhone 2. I was taking pictures of it with my long lens, and it was good. It was nice, and it was about the same quality. But for you that went to Wheeler, there's a building there at the end of the walkway where you can see the birds, and you can see a lot of different ducks. I think there were pintails and some other birds there, but it was heated, which was nice because it was like 30 degrees that morning. And this sandhill crane happened to be standing on the ice in the water where the ducks were. And I was able to get this picture with the iPhone. I got almost an exact same picture with my D500, but I just wanted to show you in the right circumstances, iPhone can take. So I took pictures of both to see if there's difference in quality. I couldn't tell any difference at all. In fact, when I was doing this presentation, I had to go back and make sure it wasn't a D500 shot versus when I save them, it shows up as an IMG image. And this is one taken with the phone. But if I had showed you the other one, it would be just the same. Okay. A couple of years ago, I was like just a few thousand points away from being platinum for Delta. So I decided to take a 1 day trip. I left in the morning, came back that night so I could get enough miles to get my platinum status. So I decided to go to Las Vegas because Las Vegas gave me 10 more miles than I needed to hit the status. And I didn't lug my camera. I just took my cell phone. So here's pictures showing the nighttime capabilities of the phone, obviously from Las Vegas. The Bellagio, great nighttime shots. Uh, Again, the flamingo. So you can see, didn't lose anything by not lugging that camera around for that 1 day trip. Something else I probably wouldn't have gotten with my camera. We're flying into Las Vegas, and I noticed, holy cow, there's the Hoover Dam right there. And there's the bridge that goes with that's the famous bridge that you can take pictures of the Hoover Dam. And against the window, pretending like I was photographing in the aquarium to get rid of the reflections. And Sharp from showing the wing, the whole area around Sharp, Hoover Dam visible. And that was a shot, one of my favorite shots of the trip, which was only lasted, I think, 20 hours, but good results nonetheless. This is inside the Hoover Dam. I didn't, was able to take that, here again, a lot of contrasty situation. Was very happy with the results of the using the cell phone. And there's, of course, Hoover Dam, which is kind of fascinating because one side of the dam is an hour away from the other side because Arizona and Nevada are different time zones, and half the dams in Arizona and the other half the dams in Nevada. It was always kind of cool thinking I was taking a picture 2 time zones apart with my phone. And of course, I went around Christmas time because I was near the end of the year, and there's inside the Bellagio. no flash, getting good detail, good color rendition with the phone. Glad I didn't have my lugging my camera around. Another trip. This is Big Sur. This is the famous Bixby Bridge, taken with the iPhone. Um, I did have my camera with me, but I just basically kept that in the car because I was getting everything I wanted with my iPhone. And again, a good sharpness, great landscape camera. And then here's another picture. I waited around for sunset, and there it is. Again, terrific color with the phone. Didn't worry about not having, I think I've said it a few times, but I'll say it again. Didn't worry about having my camera not with not with me, but the phone terrific and saved a lot of carrying around, climbing up and down hills. Um, have any of you guys been to Fort Mountain State Park? There's a good view of the west, but it's a lot of steps, probably about 600 steps to a platform where this is. And there's supposed to be, quote, a comet. I didn't see the comet, but at least I got a nice sunset shot with my iPhone. I had my camera with me, which I lugged there, but I didn't even pull it out of the bag. I was using that for the comet. The comet didn't show up, but at least I was able to get this image with the cell phone, and we're very pleased with it. And here's another. This is Sunrise, Jekyll Island with the cell phone. I was walking to get my exercise back and forth, and this scene appeared and just pulled out the cell phone to take this image. Okay, this is at the Chattahoochee River at Gold Branch. If you guys know where that is, right off Lower Roswell Road. Taking, pictures. I just had the cell phone with me because it was a long hike. Um, this is the beginning of the hike, but I was going down. It's about a 5 mile hike around. Was able to grab this image with my phone. This is the bridge over Vickery Creek. I think this is shows. Look how rich the colors are that the phone captured. Obviously, the bridge was much darker than the green leaves outside, but it would have taken with my camera probably an HDR image to be able to get something like this with the phone because the sensors, for whatever reason, seem to just have a greater range than the camera sensors do. Was able to get this without that, and just worked it in Photoshop to bring out the patina and the bridge. There's another thing. This is a macro shot of two mushrooms that have been raining a lot. You can see the soil's kind of damp. Those mushrooms are only about 3 feet, no, 3 inches high. And I was able to lay my cell phone down on the ground, looking up at the mushrooms. That would have been much more difficult with my camera and a macro lens. With the cell phone, I was able to get within a few inches of them. And again, look how it handles the contrast of the sun hitting the outside at the top of the mushroom. Um, so the range again with the cell phone is terrific. Here's I was walking my dog, I guess a couple weeks ago, and this painted turtle happened to show up. I didn't when I'm walking my dog, I don't take my I don't take my long lens like I might do at the river. But I was able to get right up with them and use the macro function of this phone and get this image. It's another image I wouldn't have had if I was just relying on a camera. And here is a picture of the Chattahoochee River. This is one of the decks in an area called Great Divide. I was walking. This person was taking a picture of that with their phone. Whoops. And so I figured I'd capture a picture, a person using the picture as my last slide to show you iPhones are very versatile. Um, use them. Don't feel bad if you have to leave a big camera at home. You're not giving up anything. And except unless you happen to go birding, going to Wheeler, and you want to do flying birds, things of that nature. So that's the end of that. Carlos told me to write it 50 minutes. He wanted me to do 45 to an hour. So any questions or any comments? That'd be great to hear.
I don't know whether you've seen the comments in the chat down below, but nothing but beautiful, gorgeous, all that kind of good stuff.
Oh,
Thoroughly
terrific.
enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions?
Marvin, I guess question I have, shooting your iPhone, you were talking about working a lot of the images while you were still on the iPhone.
Yes.
Uh, where do you actually store them? Do you just leave them on your iPhone or do you bring it into Lightroom or
No,
how's it
I'm
work for you?
on the traveling. I'm using just on the iPhone. Now, I will download them to my computer when I get home and put them in a file and maybe work on them some more. But most of the time, I don't know about the Androids, but on the phone, you have adjustments that you can do on the images. I just use those. I do a little cropping, contrast, exposure, saturation, those things you can all do on the phone. I keep that image, I save that image on the phone, and then when I get home, I'll airdrop them to my computer and put them in a storage area. But yeah, most of the stuff I do is strictly on the phone. You can't do the topaz and things like that like you can in Photoshop. That's why if I have an image that's slightly out of focus, I'll take it back into the computer. But most of the images on my phone are nice and sharp, um, and they just stay on the phone until I get home. But I process them then, and then I'll send them out to to Facebook or whatever directly from the phone.
Yeah, I think I speak for everyone. The photos were very nice.
Hey, Marvin.
Yes.
Hey, this is David. Just a
Yeah.
quick question. I know you're shooting RAW with your phone,
Yes.
but when you go to share those images, you really can't, or maybe you can, but I've not had good success because of the volume of pixels in the RAW image. You can't just transmit those right away to a friend or family member or whatever.
Yes, that is correct. But when
Hmm.
I'm sending them, I can downsize the image before I send it, and that's what I do.
Sure. Yeah.
So I just downsize it
Yeah.
because the last you want to do 10, 20, 30%, whatever, or medium or high and low. I'll do the usually the medium, and that's enough. If it's a 48 megapixel picture, sometimes I have to send it low res. But as you
Yes.
know, when you're doing things like Facebook, that really doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah. Very good.
I'm going
Thank
to go ahead and stop the